Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Karen's Chronicles, and it is the second day of Black History Month. I am excited to talk about what it means to be Black and beautiful and proud. I'm even wearing my HBCU educated sweatshirt, um, Delta Sigma Theta edition, 1913, because I hail and have been educated and matriculated and graduated, all the aideds from the Norfolk State University, class of 1995, chemistry major with honors. Hello. And so I'm excited to represent a culture that is rich, a culture that is dynamic and often uh, duplicated, often imitated, but never duplicated. That's what we are. Today's video is about overcoming imposter syndrome, knowing who you are. First and foremost, let me just say this. In this video, I am in a different location, so you're going to hear random noises and knocks, but it's okay. I've got my handy dandy microphone and I'm going to project. I'm going to use my theater voice, but not too loud because I've got some folks around me, but that's okay. The point is that you're going to hear me. Imposter syndrome. I need you to know that I am not a believer in it. So you're probably wondering, well, how are you going to post a video about overcoming something that you don't believe in? What I will say is that I do understand why people say that they have imposter syndrome. I do understand the phenomenon. When it was first introduced to me, when I first heard about it, I said, "What is this?" An imposter is someone that pretends to be something that they're not. And so I didn't quite understand it, but over time, I have been to many workshops, been to many events in my field as an engineer and technical leader, and have had many conversations with women who admit that they went through imposter syndrome. And so I'm not knocking it, I understand it better. So my video about overcoming it is more from a stance of I too have been in places where, man, I looked around the room and I'm like, do I belong here? Like, this is my question. And my question of do I belong stemmed from the landscape. It either stemmed from not seeing me as an African American female represented, or me as an engineer represented, or how I looked at myself and then looked at my surroundings and then asked the question, why am I here? Not why am I here, but why am I here? And so I can definitely relate to that mindset. It's happened to me, in a few circumstances. But what I do want to talk about is how to overcome it and knowing who you are. I tell people that I'm very self aware, which is a blessing and a curse because I fully understand me, my mindset, why I do the things that I do, my gifting, my talents, my history. I know my family lineage. And more importantly than all of those things, I know that a, I'm created by God. Like, God created me. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I wrote that scripture down, Psalm 139, verse 14. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. And we're going to get to that verse in a second. So I'm fully, fully aware of who I am as a woman. And yet, there are times where I'm in spaces and I'm in situations where I don't necessarily feel like I belong. Well, we're going to fix that. We're going to fix that today. I won't say fix, we're going to address it. And hopefully, the words and the steps that I share with you based on my own personal journey and experiences will help us all get to a place where we don't feel like imposters, where we understand that God makes provisions, that God opens doors that no man can shut, and He will put you in places to remind you of your purpose. And sometimes we don't even know what that is until we get there, until we get in the seat, get in the position, get in the room. And that is a beautiful thing. And so if we have a mindset that can acknowledge the surprise of being there and still understand that we're supposed to be there, then my video has done its work. So let's get started. Let's really get started. My first point was know your history. It is Black History Month, and I don't just mean know your history as an African American, because you may be watching this video and you are not African American. Know your history. Know who your people are. Know from whence you come, because that's going to give you insight into your DNA. It's going to give you insight into why you do the things that you do. Just knowing your people and the history and the rich history that your family brings, with whatever culture you are, I believe is a beautiful thing to start chipping at what we are now calling imposter syndrome. The reason I say this is because every family tree is different. And when I say this, some of you may be thinking, I know where I come from and I don't want any parts of that. I hear you, but hear me. You still need to know your history, even if it is not necessarily positive, or if there are attributes that have come down through DNA, through time, that have rested on you that you struggle with. You need to know what they are so that you can begin to deal with them. You can acknowledge them and you can accept them. You don't have to become them. Acknowledge, accept, and I forgot the other A, but we need to do all of those things so that when you walk into a room, you know who's there. And then you can start to understand that where you're standing in the rooms and the places that you're in, you get a greater appreciation for maybe what you've had to come through. Maybe you are the first person in your family that has been to college or has been in a company or in that job or has that opportunity. And so when we arrive and we understand who we represent, familiar representation, then we understand who is in the room with us because you're there. So you are the representation of your grandmother, your mother, your father, your grandparents, your great grandparents, your ancestors. Like, you are a reflection of them in that moment. So there are no imposters. You were created. You were born. You came through multiple family trees to be here. So knowing your history and what that's about, I believe, is going to give you insight. Notice I said that when you shake the tree, some rotten fruit can fall out and some healthful, delicious, ripe fruit can fall out. You can decide what to do with that fruit when you see it. But understand that you don't have to become it, right? All right. I think we nailed that point down. The other part of our history, at least for me, is that I am a believer in Jesus Christ. I am a disciple of Jesus. I follow Jesus. I am a follower of the way. And a part of my identity is that because I've accepted Christ, I have the Holy Spirit living and dwelling on the inside of me, and I am now a joint heir with Christ. So everything that God promised to his son Jesus, God the Father promised to his son Jesus, now belongs to me. So imposter syndrome, when you understand that you are joint heir with the King of Kings and the Lords of Lords, it kind of looks weird and sounds weird to say I'm somewhere where I'm not supposed to be, or I feel like I don't deserve to be here. Now, when I say this, I say it with the unction and the power, maybe some heat, because I want us to understand who we are and who we belong to. We were created before the beginning of time by a sovereign, holy, righteous God who knew we were going to be here, who knew what tree we were going to be a part of. We're not here by accident. So there no there's no room for imposter syndrome when we fully understand that we are here by the grace of God. And I am endeavoring to not necessarily be too spiritual. And I am not trying to push my beliefs on you. I am coming from the standpoint of a believer. And so when you believe and accept the Lord, there's a level of understanding that comes with that. And what comes with that is let me repeat it, Psalm 139, verse 14. I am fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God, God, the Son of God, Jesus the Christ. And embracing that fact alone, I believe, will help when we feel as though we don't belong. Now, real talk, some of you all are sitting there probably already turned away from the video saying, first of all, I don't know what she thinks she knows, but imposter syndrome is real. You know, sometimes you just feel, and there are people that make you feel as though you don't belong. My brother, my sister, let me tell you, I know all too well how that feeling can come about when we have low self esteem. And when we don't seem to fit in places that other people fit, whether it's because of your size, whether it's because of your skin color, whether it's because of your label, you were born in a different zip code than other people, whether it's because your family tree has a reputation and you're a part of that tree, so that reputation follows you, whatever it is, I fully understand that people will put something on you that you had nothing to do with. Can't help where you're born. Can't help the skin color that you are born with. And so when you are in these places where there are not many people like you there, and people remind you, oh, you're only here because of, or you are only here because they needed representation. So here you are. There's your seat, the seat that we reserved for the Latina, the Hispanic, the person of color, the Black, Indigenous people of color, the BIPOC community, the LGBTQ plus. We reserved one seat for them, and you get to have that seat. I understand what that's like, but make no mistake, if you're in the seat, pull it out and slide that puppy up to the table and represent and be where you're supposed to be. To be an imposter means that you are misrepresenting who you are. And I don't believe that there's any misrepresentation. It starts with who we think we are and whose we are, which is my next point. That we need to understand who and whose we are. I think I covered that already. So that isn't my next point. That is furthering the point that I just made. I'm looking at my notes, y'all, and it's 100% okay. The next point that I wanted to make was you need to subtract and divide before multiplying. Let's just get to some math. Imposter syndrome is typically seen as we are lacking something. There are institutions and systems that thrive on making us think that we are not supposed to be here. And if we are here, you're only here because of some law. You're only here because of some pressure. You're only here because some lawsuit. You're only here because there's some way that you just kind of slid in. There is no such thing. People will make you think that. And let me just say this, even if provisions were made for you to be there, I would give all credit to God, because God can open a door that no man can shut. And so we have to ignore the noise. We just have to have on filters that remind us of who we are. And in order to do that, a filter reduces, it doesn't allow everything in. So that first word that I use is subtraction. You're going to have to remove the information, the people, the messages that diminish who you are and who you are meant to be. That's the subtraction part. You have to sometimes remove yourself from some people, remove yourself from an environment. Or if you can't remove yourself from the environment and you're getting messages, however slick, subliminal, from people above you or adjacent to you, I want you to develop filters that filter out that nonsense. And those filters are fortified by truth and who you are and who you're divinely made to be, and the opportunities that will come to you even when you don't think that you're worthy of them. The division comes in where you are literally taking things out. So division is different than subtraction. Subtraction is taking things away. Division is I've got two things and I'm taking one away. And so now I have one. So you are slicing, you are purging, you are literally removing something that was, and just throwing it away or taking it away. And by dividing, I want you to not divide yourself. What I do want you to do is take stock in your habits, take stock in the things that you tell yourself. And literally, if this was the whole, I want you to separate those things out and divide and just cut them off. And let me give you a few examples that are examples that I had to do. So your GPA isn't as high as your friends, so you don't deserve that opportunity. So just be thankful if you even get in. Divide those thinkings. Just take that out. Maybe they didn't interview well. Regardless of your GPA, maybe they needed some skills that your friends didn't have that didn't show up in that GPA, so they selected you. That's a good thought. Here's another example. You competed for the position, and there were people that everybody thought was going to get the position, and yet you were selected. I wonder who you know, or I wonder who knows you. Why did that person get the why did you get selected? You don't have as much experience as that other person. That other person has done this and done that and done that and done that, and you maybe have only done this. What's going on with that? Here's the thinking of imposter syndrome that I often think we don't get to because we get to the noise and the chatter first. Have you ever thought to realize or wonder that you may have a point of view that is needed for that situation? A point of view that maybe you haven't checked all the boxes, but maybe that's exactly why you need to be there, because you're a fresh voice. You have fresh eyes. You have a fresh perspective. And so if you come in thinking with that mentality, I want you to divide that. I want you to remove all of that negativity and take it away and believe in yourself. And again, have that filter that removes the noise. So we talked about subtraction. We talked about taking away the mindset, the people, the places, the things, that filter, using that filter to remove, just like when you're baking and you, for those that bake, and you're sifting flour, that sifter gets out all the trash. My pastor calls it trash, the rocks and the stuff that you don't want in your batter. That's the subtraction. And the division, as I repeat, is removing, low key removing some of the thinking that you have believed about yourself, or that my size is not the right size. Like, why is this person even interested in me? There's so many other beautiful people. There's so many other. No, 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 no. Remove and divide all of that. The next one is multiply. So when you subtract and you divide, you now have to add to. So you're going to be left with some stuff. There's some stuff that's still going to linger, because it lingers in me. There are times when I'm in a meeting and I do not know all of the details that the other people know. But one thing that I have done is I arrest the thinking that I don't belong, and I do it almost immediately. Stop it. What is it about you that makes you right to be here? You got fresh eyes, you have a fresh perspective, you have an analytical mind, and I got a BS meter that's really good. So when I listen to people talk for the first time about a topic that I don't know anything about, my ears literally pick up everything. I don't miss a detail. So I'm able to then come back and ask the question, so how can this be true if you said this? Please explain it to me. And then when people start explaining, then some details that were left out actually come into play. That's happened to me more times than I can count, because that's the value that I add because of who I am and who my brain is and who I am when I walk into the room. My analytical brain. I may not be the subject matter expert, but I am. And I do have strengths in other areas that add to the equation, the multiplication. So you have to multiply all of your strengths. That's what I'm really trying to get you to understand. Multiply your strengths so that you don't automatically exclude yourself. Think about the wins that you had in your life. Think about the opportunities. Think about the good things that you've done with your friends, your family, in your community. For those of us that are entrepreneurs, it's so easy to compare your business to somebody else's. Well, man, or if you're a YouTuber, hello, and you see all of the likes and all of the things that other people have had, and you look at their content and like, well, my content is just as good, and blah, blah, blah. When you start doing the comparison game, you will always lose. And to me, imposter syndrome is a distant cousin from comparison. You're basically saying, I don't know why I'm here, and I don't know what makes me worthy of being here. And that's the same thing comparison does. You're asking the wrong question. The question you need to be asking yourself is, why not me? Why not me with my skills? Why not me looking the way I look? Me being who I am? Why not? And make people answer that question as opposed to you automatically removing yourself. Okay. The next one is, I want us to start taking up space. I want us to take up all the space everywhere. We go to places, and I still see it to this day, even though in some circumstances I understand. But I go to meetings and I still see people sitting in the back of the room. So there'll be a table with chairs around it, and then there will be chairs around the perimeter. And people who have the most knowledge but don't necessarily want to speak always sit in the chairs in the back. And I just observe. And in one of my meetings, and I'm like, there's 4 empty seats. And before anybody gets up, I point at people. I want you to sit here. I want you to sit here. You in the corner, I want you to come sit by me, please. And I say, I'm not starting the meeting until you move. I can do that because I'm the boss. But anyway, I did that specifically in one meeting because I knew what I wanted to talk about, and I knew that those people had the knowledge, but they just like being in the background. Now, some could say you're causing people to be something that they're not. I say that I want these folks to start learning how to take up space. Because here's what happens when you don't take up space. That project that needs the benefit of your experience that people don't know that you have, you're going to be saving time. You're going to be saving rework. Now, I do understand that oftentimes in spaces with faces that look like ours, people don't often listen to you. People often discount the knowledge that you have. Let them. Let them do and be whoever they want to be. The whole purpose of this video is that I need to be who you are called to be. And that's the problem. Let them be them, but by God, you got to be you. So if you know that you worked on this project or something like it 10 years ago at a different company, and you had some gains and you had some wins and you saved some money, speak up. Sit at the table and say, I have a perspective and an example that I like to share. It'll take 2 minutes. Another example, if you are not, how can I put this? If you want to apply to something, if you want to put yourself out there and you are just not that type of person, like you don't really want to be in the front and you don't want the shine and you don't want the attention. I get that. I really do get that because I do know people that are gifted and talented, but they just like working in the background. To you, if you are that person, I say be discerning about the time that you do speak up. There has to be a condition by which you can no longer sit in the shadows. And right now, real time, I want you to think about what those conditions may be. And it doesn't matter what field you're in, it doesn't matter what environment you're in. Everyone has a list and a set of values. And when we get to someone's safety is at risk, when we get to, if you are a really good steward and you have significant fiduciary um, stamina and you're just one of those people that's, no, I hate to see money wasted. For you, it may be finances. For someone else, it could be people. Like you just, it may burn you up when people are mistreated or passed over. So if you're in a room where people are being discussed and you see that happening, but you normally don't speak up, that's probably the time that you need to. Think about what I call those non-returnable serves. And it allows you to sit front row seat. It allows you to scoot yourself to the table, scoot yourself to the table and say your piece and take up space. We were called to take up space. We have breath, we have life, we are breathing. We only get one time around this sun, y'all. We are here to take up space. And the way that we do it is by understanding who we are, understanding that you're going to be in rooms that you never thought you were going to be in, and that you're there for a reason. And